What's up, everyone? Drew Kerr, welcome in. As many of you may have seen yesterday, I ranked the first 32 through 17, the back half of the quarterbacks. Today I'll be doing the top 16. So if you haven't checked that out and want to see a full score of all the rankings, go ahead and check out part 1 yesterday. Today will be part 2, and let's get into it. So I just wanted to preface this really quick by saying that I tried to be as objective as possible. As you can see back there, if you're not a Niners fan, obviously I am. But I did try to do this as objectively as possible by using data points and metrics. Two of the metrics that I'm going to be using are total quarterback rating and QBR. They both measure different things, and I'll explain what they both mean. If you're like me, I didn't know fully, so I did verse myself on some of these things. So I'm going to go ahead, just for the fan that might not know, I'm going to go ahead and briefly explain that before we get into the rankings. And I'm just going to be really brief with these guys. So I'm just going to give you the nutshell version. First, total quarterback rating. The score does range from 0 to 158.3. So that's kind of the potential. I haven't seen anybody ranked, quite down close to 0, but it can happen. And this happens game to game, and then you get a cumulative score at the end of the season. So it's also based on completion percentage, yards and attempt, percentage of attempts leading to touchdowns, and percentage of attempts leading to INTs, interceptions. It's plugged into a formula and it spits out the number. All the figures have a minimum and maximum value. That a higher number does not improve the rating. So for example, if a quarterback throws higher than 77.5% in a game, or for the season, which has never happened, but in a game, it doesn't impact the score more than that. So that's kind of where the cap is, that's where the max is, and the same goes for some of the other stats. And second is QBR. QBR is a metric that was created by stat heads at ESPN to capture the effectiveness of every snap taken by an individual quarterback. A score of 50 is kind of considered to be the median. That's the mid-level, so players will be above that and below that, and so that sort of sets the bar there. This does consider sacks and penalties on the quarterback. It considers yards after catch, so what the playmakers are doing after the play can impact or does not impact the quarterback. Play difficulty, defensive performance against how much a play contributes to expected points. So both of these have their pros and cons, obviously, but if you didn't know before what exactly each metric covers, at least have sort of a baseline without going into extensive detail of what each one of these things means. All right, guys, so just as a continuation of yesterday, we're going to just jump right into this. And the very first player that we're going to start with at 16 is Deshaun Watson. And, he didn't qualify for the minimum 8 games, so I didn't rank him and didn't put any of the stats up there for QBR rating, all that kind of thing. So I do think that if Deshaun Watson stays healthy, he is one of the better quarterbacks in the entire NFL. He is in the top half. He has had the off-field stuff, and I think that messed with him a little bit. But if he can just dial into football this season, I think he's a very dangerous quarterback. I do like his game. I like what I see on film when he's healthy. Again, it all just comes down to health. It comes down to health for a lot of these guys, but I think just solely on talent, individualism, this guy is very good. He could definitely, if he stays healthy, he could definitely be one of those guys that's arrow up throughout the season as I do these rankings quarterly. I think that Deshaun Watson is a guy to watch. So he played 6 games. In those 6 games, he did have 142 yards rushing. Again, did not have anything to measure him with. So moving right along, in front of him is coming in at number 15. It's going to be Russell Wilson. I think that he could be resurrected under Mike Tomlin. I think that that's a good place for him. Tomlin's not going to let him do any of that Mickey Mouse stuff. He's going to make him solely focus on football. So Russell Wilson played 15 games. He had a total QB rating of he came in at 8th. QBR, he was 22nd, so there was kind of a big disparity there. So I think that, he didn't have a whole lot of help in Denver in terms of the playmakers. Jerry Jeudy's all right, and Cortland Sutton's obviously good. But, I think that he's going to have a better supporting cast here. He's going to have, in my mind, maybe a better head coach. I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up between Peyton and Tomlin. But Tomlin, one thing you could say about him is he's consistent. So He came in at 19th in yards, 9th in touchdowns. Interception percentage was 12th. Completion percentage was also 12th. Yards an attempt 20th, and he did have 340 yards rushing. So very good there. I think that, actually Russell Wilson from this spot could actually go up or down. It's just going to be contingent on him. I don't think that Fields is really a threat to him unless there's some kind of injury, and then Fields miraculously develops into what everybody thought he could be. But it sounds like he's been struggling at camp. But it's just our OTAs. But that's just OTAs. So we'll see when camp comes how he looks. But I think Russell Wilson is penciled in as QB1. So we'll see where that goes. Moving right along, coming in at 14th, Kirk Cousins with the Falcons. New face, new place, and he did only play 8 games before that gruesome injury. And so, I think that that's going to be something to watch, of course, as it will be with, Aaron Rodgers when we get to him in a minute. But, he did come in at 3rd in rating, 7th in QBR, yards 24th, obviously, for the lack of games. He would have been a lot higher than that, and touchdowns, same thing. 19th there, interception percentage, 9th, so top 10. Completion percentage 3rd. Yards an attempt 9th, and he only had 25 yards rushing. He's kind of more of a pocket QB these days. So I think that coming in at 14, Kirk Cousins, that's a good spot for him. And if he's healthy, the Falcons have a lot of playmakers around him. He could be dangerous. I like Atlanta for the division this year. I think the Tampa will, they'll be right there also. But I think I like Atlanta this season for the NFC South. So and moving right along, Tua Tagovailoa for the Dolphins, coming in at 13, played all 17 games. I do have him here just because it seems like he can beat up on all the tomato can type teams or the average teams. He looks very, very good, but when it comes to playing a good team, the game gets too big and he gets eaten up. He kind of disappears a little bit, but statistically, he does have some fluffed up numbers here. 5th in rating, 10th in QBR. He was 1st in yards, and how could you not be with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and all those guys that he has to throw the ball to? And then 5th in touchdowns, interception percentage 25th, completion percentage 5th, yards and attempts 2nd, and then rushing yards 74. So for me, when the games got too big, Tua kind of has not had that career-defining moment where he's just had a stamped-on type of game. So I think he's going to need to beat some good teams this year in order for people to start ranking him a little bit higher. I do think that he has potential to get there. He lost a little bit of weight this offseason, so we'll see how he looks in camp. We'll see how he looks in the season, and we'll adjust as needed. So moving on from him, coming in at 12th, Jared Goff, 17 games as well. He's going to be 30 soon, so kind of getting to that point in his career where he is a very seasoned veteran. The rating was 9th. The QBR was 11th. Had a really good supporting cast, has a very good coach. Going to have a good play caller this year, so he definitely could be arrow up as well. Yards, he came in 2nd. 4th in touchdowns, 19th in interception percentage, 7th in completion percentage, 7th in yards and attempt, and 21 yards rushing for Jared Goff. This one might be a little bit controversial because everybody kind of sees Aaron Rodgers coming off an injury. He's a little bit hobbled. He's got some off-field stuff he's doing that's a little bit strange. So he is also 40 years old. So, we didn't really see Brady disappear at that age. But I think Rodgers kind of relies a little bit more on his mobility. So if he's not as mobile, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But it is still Aaron Rodgers, and he does still have the mind of Aaron Rodgers. So that's why I have him here at 11th. No stats. He only had, a couple snaps last season in the regular season before he blew his Achilles. And so I think that, if you don't have Aaron Rodgers in your top 15, you're probably nuts. I do think that he is still going to be one of the better quarterbacks if he can stay healthy, if he can be a little bit mobile. And, I think he's going to help the Jets figure some things out and maybe have a little bit better record than they did last year this season. So getting into the top 10. We are now almost into the elite category. We have 2 more spots in the above average tier 2. So moving right along, Justin Herbert coming in at number 10. I think that Harbaugh is the quarterback whisperer, and I definitely think Justin Herbert could take a huge step forward. We saw him resurrect Alex Smith's career, Harbaugh, that is, and, make Kaepernick a force when he was lacking some other traits as a quarterback. And so I think that Harbaugh is definitely going to have an impact on Justin Herbert's game. So he did only play 13 games. His rating was also 13th. QBR 5th, yards 18th, touchdowns 18th, interception percentage 3rd, completion percentage 16th, and then yards an attempt 21st. He did have also 228 yards rushing, so he's a threat also with his legs, and I think that Harbaugh's going to want him to utilize that ability, and I think that he's going to definitely take a step forward. And coming in the top 10, last guy on the above average list, he could move into elite. He definitely has elite traits, but I don't consider him a top, he's not a top 5 quarterback like a lot of people have him ranked. He definitely was not MVP last year. That could have gone to Dak Prescott or Josh Allen because it is a regular season award. And I just don't think that Lamar Jackson did enough. Obviously his first MVP he earned, he had like 40 some odd touchdowns. He was killing it that year with his legs, with his arm. But he's only thrown for like 3K twice in his whole career. So I'm not a big Lamar Jackson guy. I think that, like I said, he has elite traits. Is he elite? I think he's on the cusp of elite. And I think that he could be elite in certain games, and then he can totally disappear like he did in the AFC Championship game and others. So that's why I have him at 9th. He is inside the top 10. Say what you will. Leave a comment if you disagree with that, but that's where I personally have him, and that's based on this data. He played 16 games, was 4th in rating, 4th in QBR, but 15th in yards, 12th in touchdowns. He was higher in interception percentage and completion percentage, and then also yards and attempt. He did also have 821 yards rushing, and this is also, while a lot of people see that as a good trait for him to be able to kill you with his legs, I see it as a potential liability, because if your quarterback's running that much, he's putting himself in jeopardy. He could get hurt very easily, and he has in his career, which is why he's only thrown for over 3K twice in his career. So I think that this 821 yards rushing works against him, and I don't see him as a pocket quarterback. That's not his game. It never will be his game. So at some point when he's not able to run again, he can't fall back on just passing. So I'm not crazy about Lamar Jackson, but I do respect that he has elite traits. Similar to like Michael Vick, but even Michael Vick was a much better passer than Lamar Jackson when everything kind of boils down to it. So moving on into our tier 1, our top 8. This is the elite quarterbacks in my mind. These are the quarterbacks that are elite in the NFL right now. Just kind of going back to Lamar. Lamar can make it into that category. I'm not saying he can't. Again, this is going to be on a quarterly basis that I do these. And so we will visit those each 4 games into the season. Obviously, the last quarter will be 5 games because they've added an extra. But we will do this on a quarterly basis. So without any more delay, I'll get into the elite category, starting with Jordan Love coming in at 8. He played 17 games, made it all the way to the divisional game through a game-losing pick, unfortunately. But I do think he will grow from that. I don't think he's going to be that. He definitely won't let that get to him. I think he's too good of a player, and he will grow from that. So coming in at 8, his rating is 11th. His QBR was 9th. Yards were 7th. Touchdowns, he was 2nd in the entire NFL. Interception percentage, I don't put a ton of stock into this because it's all about attempts and this and that, but I did want to list it here because I just didn't want to list like interceptions as a total, just because it's a little bit misleading. The percentage is a little bit more accurate, but not totally accurate, and it is one of the factors into total QB rating. So just wanted to list that just for you guys to see that. But he's 20th in completion percentage, 14th in yards an attempt, and he did have 247 yards rushing. So Jordan Love, yeah, definitely like his game. I think he's going to grow as a player. A very good young quarterback. He's only 25. And this next guy is even younger than that. Barely old enough to drink, just a year into it. CJ Stroud coming in at rank at number 7. He is 22 years old. 15 games he played last season. He came in 6th at total quarterback rating, 16th in QBR, 8th in yards, 13th in touchdowns. Interception percentage was 1st, completion percentage 22nd, yards and attempt 3rd. Did have 167 yards rushing. And why I placed him here with a little bit lower stats, especially with the QBR, is just because I think that he was under pressure all the time. You know, his offensive line was banged up the entire season. He did also miss 2 games himself, so not bad for a rookie year. He definitely earned that Rookie of the Year award, and I think he's going to be even better in year 2. I don't think there's going to be any sophomore slump. They've added pieces to help him. D'Amico Ryans is a hell of a coach. I think CJ Stroud is going to be one to fear in the NFL this season. He's got all the confidence in the world. You can see it when this guy talks and interviews and everything like that. He believes in himself. His team believes in him. And I think he's going to take a leap forward. So with that, I'm going to move on. And the next guy we have here is Matt Stafford coming in at 6. He's 36 years old. 15 games for Stafford last year. Does have, he will have Cooper Kupp back for a full season, at least hopefully. I say that hopefully. My team is the Niners. They are a division rival, but you do want to beat teams when they're at their best. And they are at their best when they have Matt Stafford there because he is an elite pocket passer. If he gets in a rhythm, he definitely can cut you. And he does cut people when he gets in that rhythm. So the best thing you can do with Matt Stafford is throw him off his game by putting pressure on him. Which can be said for most quarterbacks, but he came in at 15th on rating, 6th in QBR, 11th in yards, 11th in touchdowns. He did miss 2 games like Stroud, so 20th in interception percentage, completion percentage 25th, and then yards and attempt 8th, and then 65 yards rushing. He's not a very mobile quarterback. He can scramble if he needs to a little bit here and there. But yeah, I think that Matt Stafford, when you watch the film, when you turn the film on, it kind of contradicts some of these rankings and rating and QBR and some of these others. I think he's a lot better than some of these numbers say. And this is why I said with some of this, there will be a little bit of subjectivity, but I am bringing data points to the table so that you guys can actually see them for yourself. But this is just a preseason ranking. Again, don't, put me up on the cross for all of these. You can obviously comment again, like I said, and ask me why I put them there, and we can have a discussion in the comments. But this is kind of just my baseline of where I'm setting the bar for the season, and it will be fluid and it will change, like I've mentioned before. So getting into the top 5 now. This is kind of where everybody, all the mainstream media guys, they only will do 5, which is, to me, it's very lazy, which is why I wanted to put together a fully comprehensive all 32 teams, quarterbacks, every starter, and kind of take a look there. So jumping into spot number 5, that's going to be Josh Allen. 28 years old, did play all 17 games last year. He came in 16th in rating, but he was 3rd in QBR. So a little bit of a gap there. But like I said, these 2 things do measure different things, and that's why there is. It's not like one is better than the other. They just measure different things. So you got to take everything with a grain of salt, but you got to look at all the data points. You can't just look at one data point because that would be cherry picking. So 3rd QBR, 4th in yards, 6th in touchdowns, 30th in interception percentage. He does struggle to take care of the ball at times, especially in the playoffs. So, that's the one knock you have on Josh Allen, but it always feels like he's just one great pass away from breaking the tradition of not being able to get over the hump in the playoffs. So 30th, like I said, interception percentage, 11th completion percentage, 10th in yards and attempt, and he does have 524 yards rushing, so he can cut you just like Jalen Hurts or any of these guys. He's a bigger guy, hard to tackle, all those things. So moving right along, this should have, if we're basing everything on the regular season, I think Dak Prescott got gypped a little bit for the MVP. I definitely think that if they're saying it's just a regular season MVP, I think Dak Prescott probably should have got it. Again, Niners fan, don't care for the Cowboys, respect Dak. In the regular season, he disappears in the playoffs for whatever reason. That's been his MO. I think he's going to have his work cut out for him this year because I think the Cowboys are going to be a little bit one-dimensional. That could hurt Dak Prescott because if Ezekiel Elliott is the only running back that they have, he's seen better days. He's not going to be the guy he was 5 years ago or whatever. So I think that's one thing to watch, but I think based on last season and everything that Dak Prescott has done in the regular season to this point in his career, and including last year, like I said, 17 games, second rating, second in QBR, third in yards, first in touchdowns, sixth in interception percentage, first in completion percentage, sixth in yards an attempt, and 242 yards rushing. I think that's the best season. Maybe. But you do have to put it all together, right? Like, so, playoffs is also a factor into this. And then some of the film and the bigger games against some of the better teams like the Niners, he kind of just, he disappears. So, it's unfortunate, but you definitely have to consider Dak in the top 5 with those kind of numbers. And then it's just some of the throws that he makes. Him and CeeDee Lamb have great chemistry, so that'll be an interesting thing to keep watching. And with this next person, I think that I'm going to catch a lot of kickback. Madden's got him rated at 99 just arbitrarily because if you look at the actual numbers last year of what Patrick Mahomes actually did, it wasn't great. He did not have the best season individually in his career. Yes, you could say ring, blah blah blah, scoreboard all day long, but that doesn't encompass how he played as an individual, how he played doing his part. He threw a game-winning touchdown, but the guy was wide open. Like, I feel like anybody could have thrown that. I've said this a million times. My grandma could have thrown that, and I could have thrown that. Anybody could have thrown that pass. It was a layup. So it wasn't anything impressive. It wasn't like Joe Montana, Dwight Clark, the catch. It wasn't anything special. So he won in overtime. Give him that. Can't take it away. It's in the record books. You can't take it away. So there are definitely some things about that game that I'm not going to get into in these rankings, but I do have Patrick Mahomes coming in at third. He did play 16 games. 14th in rating, 8th in QBR. So, yes, top 10 in QBR, but way outside of the top 10 in rating. 6th in yards, 8th in touchdowns, 21st in interception percentage. Like I said, he turned the ball over, so I didn't even include his fumbles. Had a bunch of those in the regular season. And, he was first in completion percentage, which is pretty good for the amount of passes that he had. Obviously, not pretty good. It is the best in the NFL. So the completion percentage was there, but obviously, with rating and QBR wasn't the best. So 6th in yards an attempt, and then 389. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong line. Sorry, guys. 14th, 8th, 6th in yards, 8th in touchdowns, 21st in interception percentage, completion percentage 9th, yards an attempt 19th, and then, like I said, 389 rushing yards for Patrick Mahomes. So he is coming in at number 3. I don't think that he is heading into this season as the best quarterback in the NFL. Everybody's going to argue that point. And the mainstream media will feed you lies and say that he's the best. But statistically, he wasn't the best. In a lot of games, he wasn't the best. The Chiefs' defense kept him in a lot of games. And if the Chiefs didn't have as great of a defense as they had, Patrick Mahomes would have maybe missed the playoffs last year. I don't think that Spagnuolo saved the day a lot of times for Patrick Mahomes last year. And that's just the truth of it. That's reality. Go back and look at the film. Go back and look at the games. I know exactly what I'm talking about. This is the data. Patrick Mahomes was the third best quarterback last year. He's probably going to be the third best quarterback heading into this year. I don't think that he's going to get to number one. I don't know why. I just have a feeling that he is not going to. He's definitely going to be a top 5 quarterback. You can't argue that. He's great. He is in the history books. He's a future Hall of Famer. So I'm not knocking him in that way. I'm just saying that he's not perfect, and he definitely made a lot of mistakes last year. And if he does that again this year, it's going to be rough sledding because everybody in the AFC has gotten better. And so moving on to spot number 2, and this is probably my most subjective ranking here, but this is because I think when Joe Burrow is not injured, when he is at the top of his game, Joe Burrow is absolutely one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He might be the best quarterback in the NFL. A lot of people are going to dispute that and say this or that and his weapons and yada, 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 but all the good quarterbacks have good weapons throughout history. You go back and look at Joe Montana, he had all the guys. Steve Young, he had all the guys. Marino had a lot of guys. Elway had a lot of guys. Brady at certain points in his career had a lot of guys. It's just the way it is. Like, great teams have great players, and you can't knock a quarterback for being in a situation that he has a lot of great surrounding talent. So for that, Joe Burrow I think is second. If he has a fully healthy season this year, I might say that the Bengals would be a front runner for making it to the Super Bowl in 2025 and this season 2024. The Super Bowl is obviously in 2025, so I think that Joe Burrow there statistically obviously isn't going to look very great. It's not going to look really pretty on paper right here, but in my mind Joe Burrow is the second best quarterback in the entire NFL. He's only 27, so he's got a lot of room to grow, a lot of career ahead of him if he can stay healthy. Only played 10 games, 18th in rating, 21st in QBR, 25th in yards, 22nd in touchdowns. Interception percentage was 21st, 9th in completion percentage, 19th in yards and attempt. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong line again, guys. Apologize. So games, 10 games, 18th in rating, 21st in QBR, 25th in yards, 22nd in touchdowns, 8th in interception percentage, 10th in completion percentage, 28th in yards and attempt, and 88 yards rushing. I stand on this. I stand by this. I realize that people are probably going to be upset about this, that I have Joe Burrow ahead of Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow's beaten Patrick Mahomes when both were healthy, went to the Super Bowl. I think that Joe Burrow is Patrick Mahomes' kryptonite. I think he could be the Chiefs' kryptonite if he's 100%. He did say that in a recent presser that he's feeling great. He's feeling 100%. He just needs to stay that way. And I think he's top 2, top 3, top 4 quarterback in the entire NFL. And finally, guys, this is going to seem homerish, but it's not. Brock Purdy was the best quarterback in the entire NFL. The efficiency stats back that up. Every stat backs it up. The eye test backs it up. He put the team on his back against Green Bay, put the team on his back in the championship game, and brought him back from being down 24-7. A lot of people say it's this guy or that guy, but the quarterback's the leader. He's the guy in the huddle. He's the guy rallying the troops. He's the guy that put the team on his back, in my opinion. And so he's only 24. He's finally getting a full off season. He's got more weapons than he could imagine surrounding him. There was a CBS article recently of a guy. I forgot his name. He's not even really on my radar or relevant. I don't know who he is. I looked it up yesterday and I've already forgot it today. But he said that Brock Purdy will regress this year. And I think the only way that could happen is if the Niners are plagued with injury this year. Other than that, full off season. If they get Brandon Ayuk in before training camp, that's just going to add fuel. And, he played 16 games, rested him in the final game. First in rating, first in QBR, fifth in yards, third in touchdowns. He did, attempts, 2 interceptions. He had 11, 26 there. Fourth in completion percentage. Yards and attempt was first. And he rushed for 144. I do think that number will go up. And again, this is not set in stone. If Brock Purdy struggles at any point, I will be fair. I will knock him down the ladder. I will move other guys up. But right now, Brock Purdy easily had the best season last year. And granted, Mahomes has had a better career. People are like, Mahomes is better than Brock Purdy. I don't think so. I think that Brock Purdy is the best quarterback heading into 2024. And how can you argue it? You can't argue that. There's like no justifiable argument outside of somebody saying Super Bowl, rings, blah, blah, blah. That's a team accomplishment. That is not an individual accomplishment. This isn't tennis. This isn't golf. And Brock Purdy was the best quarterback in the entire NFL last year. And I'm sorry if that hurts anybody's feelings or if they disagree. You could go ahead and challenge me on the Joe Burrow one because, like I said, that's subjective. This one is not subjective. It's not being a homer. It's just facts. And so with that is the final bit of this ranking. And so, yeah, I don't know. Let me know in the comments, guys. And all right, guys, here's one last look at the full rankings list. As you can see, I had them broken up into 4 tiers, like I had said before: elite, above average, average, and not enough info, or below average. So I plan on doing these stats, or these, like I said, at each quarter of the season as data for the 2024 season compiles. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, if you didn't catch part 1 yesterday, please go back and check that out. And, hope you enjoyed. Please, if you disagree, just let me know in the comments and we could have a discussion about it. But as always, guys, thanks, and hope you appreciated it. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you.